Hello, welcome. This is the Burn Sports KC. I am your host, Alex Blackburn. Um, Sorry about not having an article yesterday. Uh, kind of got to be a really busy Saturday. Just kind of fell through. Um, but we'll be talking about what that article was going to be about here in this podcast and a few more items that we need to discuss. Got the Big 12 basketball recruitment that I want to talk about, as well as the Royals draft and Chiefs training camp preview finally. So stay tuned. It's gonna be a fun one. So let's strap in. So the first thing I want to talk about today is the Big 12. The Big 12. The basketball recruitment has shown quite an uptake this year, and I think the Big 12 in terms of basketball is going to be extremely competitive. Not just in 2022, but also in 2023. If you didn't hear, K State got their best recruit since Wally Judge. My apologies. But their best recruit since Wally Judge and Dede Alves. He's a four-star 2023 recruit. Should be an instant impact player for them. I know that they've done well in the transfer portal this year, and Jerome Tang's been doing some work. But in terms of competitiveness in this year's Big 12, I think K-State's got more of a shot than a lot of people because of how that recruitment and transferring has gone. I still don't think they make it out of the middle of the pack, but we'll have to see. Obviously, their football program is also up and coming. I think that their football program is definitely going to be in that top 3 to 5 range. But I don't think their basketball program will be. I think their basketball program still has a ways, but I think they're trending in the right direction with Jerome Tang and the transfers and recruits that they're getting this year. And it's pretty tough to tell what team is going to be that team that ends up being the surprise team of the Big 12. Again, I think the recruitment's been off the charts. I think Big 12 is asserting its status almost as the best basketball conference. And I think with the recruitment and the transfers that have come through, that only proves that statement further right. We really haven't seen any action in the ACC. We really haven't seen any action in the SEC in terms of basketball. We've been seeing a trend upward for every single Big 12 school. And that says something about this conference. And obviously that conference is going to change here in the next 2 years. But it still says something that this conference is performing at such a high level. It says a lot about the schools that are within that conference. All of them. Not just, KU, Baylor, etc. Which is not what you can say about the other conferences. I think in the SEC you've got Kentucky and maybe Tennessee, but other than that, I mean, Florida's all right. LSU has their moments, but it's pretty much Kentucky and everybody else in the SEC. And then in terms of the ACC, you got Duke, North Carolina, sometimes Syracuse. My point being is this: the Big 12 is proving why it is the most all-around best basketball conference. Whether that be Jerome Tang hitting the ground running in K-State, whether that be Bob Huggins re-upping his roster after a developmental year last year. KU obviously got some McDonald's All-Americans and Grady Dick and Ernest Uday. And I think what we're seeing is people finally recognizing that the Big 12 basketball is that Big 12 basketball is basically the SEC of college basketball, whereas SEC is obviously college football. So I think we've definitely seen that upward trend. The question is, who's going to be the surprise team of the Big 12? And I think that's going to be K-State. I think K-State's going to be the surprise team. That or Oklahoma State. I think those are my two picks for the surprise team that, it was TCU last year. I think those two programs have the best shot at shocking people. And I don't think there will be any gimmies in terms of Big 12 competition. And that's a good thing. I think that tests the mettle of these Big 12 teams that are, have the shot at going dancing and have the shot at making a deep run in March, and good competition incentivizes that. So we'll just have to see. I think it's going to be a great year for the Big 12, both in football and in basketball. And it's almost like a contract year for a player, because obviously the Big 12 is making some changes come next year. So it'll be a fun last hurrah for the old Big 12, the old guard. So I can't wait to see. And let's move on to the Blues. If you were wondering what I was doing last night on Saturday, I was in Columbia, Missouri. I was at the Show Me State games down there in Como, which, it's a great spot. Let me tell you, as a KU fan, it's a wonderful town. Totally wasn't flaunting my Jayhawk gear, by the way. But anyways, down in Como, the Blues came down after a kind of disappointing end to the national qualifier season. Unfortunately, they ended up placing fifth, which did not get them into the qualifying spot, which, as a young team that really hadn't played together all that much, it's truly inspiring how this team bounced back. Yeah, it was too little too late, but it's a good sign for the fall. And I think come August 18th, really earlier, because training camp starts before then, I think the Blues will be a force to be reckoned with. They're in the heart of America, the Midwest. College rugby is messing up my head. But I think the Blues really do have a big-time chance at making a run for that Midwest crown. Getting over the hump that is Metropolis will be difficult, but I think the Blues have the ability to do it, and if the momentum keeps up, they could beat anybody. And we saw that this past weekend. I think with the performances that happened, with the performances that happened over the weekend, they were against social sides, but the teams look good. The teams look really good, and that wasn't all, the qualifier guys. It was some of the D2 guys got moved up, some of the D3 guys got moved up, and it was an all-around great effort. I think there are things to improve on, but I think most of the team recognizes that there are improvements that need to be made. And with rugby, momentum is of utmost importance. And I think that's true with any athletic competition, but in rugby, if you have momentum and if you keep building upon that momentum and keep building and learning rugby, especially in American rugby, rugby smarts goes a long way, as does motivation. I have seen a lot of teams that are really, really good just don't have those rugby smarts and don't have the motivation to hit that next level. I think the Blues have every opportunity to hit the next level come fall. And fall's an important season because that's when the competitive season of Midwest rugby is. And there's going to be tough competition. St. Louis always has great teams. Minneapolis with Metropolis and others will have squads out there that are just as determined. But I think with the Blues, we've got a lot of speed. We've got a lot of guys that are eager to learn, and a lot of guys with great athletic skill. And we have a coaching staff that includes Derek Pearson, who I'm trying to get on for an interview right now. Stay tuned for that. Stay tuned. Includes Derek Pearson, Scott Cram, Darwin Nelson. These guys know how to motivate, and they know rugby. And that's all important when it comes to a good rugby coach. I think it takes someone with a vast knowledge of the game. Not only that, though, an ability to teach it. An ability to teach it well while also providing positive influence. And I think they've got a great mesh of that for that Blues coaching staff. So it's going to be an exciting fall. Come out and watch. I know I'll be out there, whether I'm playing or doing other stuff because I am an executive board member as well. But come out and watch. It's a great time. A lot of people come out for these matches, and just come see what rugby's all about in terms of when it comes to just the aspect of a sporting event. I know it's not a Chiefs game. I know it's not, hundreds of thousands of people watching, but it's that intimate atmosphere that provides the beauty of watching rugby, watching American rugby, no less. We've got such a culture here that will be put on display here in the next decade when, in 2031, the United States hosts the Rugby World Cup. And speaking of that, Kansas City has made their bid, as reported by KCHB. I cannot talk today. KSHB 41 Action News. You might know them. But they've reported that Kansas City has sent in their bid to become a Rugby World Cup host city. Just like they're a soccer World Cup host right now in 2026. I don't know if I've mentioned that. Pretty sure I have. Anyway, Kansas City's put down their bid, and I think with the growing rugby culture here in the high schools, the colleges that are around here, and of course the club teams, they've got a shot. And I've heard a few murmurings about weather and the fact that it's in October to November. If we can do Chiefs football in the middle of October and November and it go off without a hitch, I think rugby guys will be just fine. That being said, there are going to be a lot of coastal teams and southern teams that are making their bids as well, and teams that, or cities, that have a more established, I guess, rugby culture. Obviously, like Salt Lake City, Denver, Seattle, all these places could very well host easy. But I think Kansas City's right up there with them, and I think if we can host the Soccer World Cup, we can absolutely host the Rugby World Cup. And it's gonna be an interesting couple of years to see whether or not we get that chance to show the rugby world Kansas City rugby, as well as Kansas City culture. So I hope we get it for sure. It's exciting. Kind of doubling back to the Blues, though. I don't know if I mentioned this. But the Blues went down to the Show Me State games and took first and third with their A and B sides, and it was a great time. It was a great weekend. I am fortunate enough to play around guys that in the rugby program that are just solid dudes all around, and that I can put my trust in. And they're great guys, and just overall, it was a great weekend. We got a cool looking trophy out of it too. I might post a picture here soon of said trophy, because it's a pretty cool trophy that we couldn't bring into the bars because it's a big, giant Longhorn skull. Again, I will show pictures if needed. Other rugby guys have them too. So if you haven't seen it already, you'll probably see it on my socials or the Burn KC. It's a cool trophy. Kind of moving on now to the Royals. You know, everyone's favorite topic, the Royals. They had an MLB draft this past week, and it's not a bad draft from the Royals. I think it's very pitcher heavy. I think that they did what they needed to do, but I think when it comes to outfielders, they didn't do enough. I think we needed way more outfielders drafted. Obviously, like, pitching's a huge issue, but that's mainly because of coaching and not really coaching and development, not really the guys that we have, at least in my opinion. But other than that, I think it's a pretty good draft. I enjoy the fact that we loaded up on pitchers so that these guys can have some competition, these guys can have some development, and we can have a deep bullpen, because that's what got us to those 14 and 15 World Series, was a deep bullpen along with an improbable thing of offense. That, you know, there's a whole documentary on it on YouTube. I suggest you watch it. It's truly improbable how we made the World Series in back-to-back years in 2014 and 2015. But I'm happy that we done that. So, but anyway, talking about the current Royals again. First two picks went on they went with outfielders, and they went with outfielders that can hit. I think that's the big part of the Royals' first day of the draft, was drafting guys that are bats and that can hit the ball deep. Obviously, we got Bobby Witt Jr. Obviously, we've got, to a degree, Hunter Dozier and others. But I think having those guys get stuck in and get developed and have them face big league pitchers early will be super important. I think they're ready. I think they've got great bats. I think they've faced top-level competition in college. And overall, I think it'll be a great time to further develop the young guys. This back half of the season, going into next season, as with spring training and everything like that, it'll be an interesting spring training next year. And an interesting back half of the season as well. We have a lot of young guys that are waiting for their shot. Michael Mattingly is one of them. I think I said that right. I can't remember. I will correct myself later if I have to. But there's other guys as well. Carter Jensen is another name that's been thrown around. And then the guys that are up there already, like Nick Prado, Vinny Pasquantino, Jr., and others, that will be the future of this Royals program. And I think this is one of the first times that I can say that the Royals truly took their future into consideration when it comes to drafting. And I feel good about this draft. And that's, when it comes to the Royals and feeling good about things, it's very few and far between. So take it all in, folks. We'll see how the season ends. I think if we can end it on a developmental and high note, I won't call this season a complete loss because, frankly speaking, it's not. The Royals don't have their worst record ever or anything like that. They've at times this year have been on pace for their worst record, but they've found a way to win games that would put them over the brink of. Guys, they're still bottom feeders though. I'm not. I'm gonna be realist here and just say that. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Gosh, talking about it. Yeah, let's talk about Whit Merrifield. First game back at the K yesterday, he came to a mixed ovation, which kind of says a lot about. It's just really a microcosm of America. Of what you think about Whit Merrifield is, what defines you. And he came into a mix of boos and cheers. Kind of in his pregame interviews, he was just like, I don't really care what they think. And boy, howdy, he performed. He did. He did pretty well that game. He's definitely upping his trade stock. Yes, I still absolutely believe he should be traded. I don't care if all is forgiven. I don't care if you hate him. He's got to go. I don't see any feasible reason as to why we should keep him. And he said he made those comments because the postseason was important to him. Well, it's important to all of us, Whit. That's such a dumb comment. Like, do you not think that this team wants to win, that this team wants to be in the postseason? They're not going to be this year, obviously, but it's no thanks to you, or it's no thanks to you that they're not a contender. Or you get what I mean. I'm sorry, but it's he's acting as if he has no part in how bad the Royals are doing. He's been performing average at best. He's not performing the way 2019 Whit Merrifield was performing. The good Whit Merrifield. What we saw in 2020, what we saw in 2021 has just kind of continued. It's just been kind of a stagnant season for him. And you know what? If he wants to do well these past couple games, or these next couple games, so be it. It'll up his trade stock. But that's pretty much the only reason I am cheering for Whit Merrifield, is that we can get some excellent talent from like the Dodgers or the Mariners or someone like that. Obviously the Mariners aren't like a huge market team, but they've got some talent, and we traded with them before. And those are the top two suitors from what I've seen in the news as of recent for Whit Merrifield. At this point, guys, we have to focus on these young guys. I think that is the end-all, be-all at this point. Benintendi's great, Taylor's great, Salvador Perez, Whit Merrifield, not really Hunter Dozier. But these guys, they've been with us for a while or whatever. Not really, but kind of. And you don't want to see your favorite players go, but guys, it's professional sports. Money is the bottom line. Money is the end-all, be-all. It's the same thing that we talked about with the Tyreek Hill situation. In the end, it is not up to the fan whether or not this guy stays with the program. And honestly, I think Whit's made his decision as to whether or not he wants to stay. We should respect that. We don't have to like it, but we have to respect it. Because, again, it's professional sports. So, anyway, let's get into some better news here. Um, Chiefs training camp has started, which means football is less than 2 months away, which I'm pretty excited about. I don't know about you. I'm pretty excited. Um, and I'm especially excited because the Chiefs have, according to ESPN, which at this point, guys, like a lot. I'm surprised a lot of people take ESPN seriously, but I agree that it is the end all be all of sports in the United States. It's ran by Disney and etc. etc. But I digress. Excuse me, gotta quench it. But when it comes to the AFC West, ESPN gives the Chiefs a 25.8% chance to win. Which by the way is third right now among all the other teams' odds. Third of four. I think it's the Broncos or the Raiders that got fourth. Obviously, they're picking the Chargers because when do they not? I don't understand these people's obsession with the Chargers. Justin Herbert's a great quarterback, don't get me wrong, and they've got a team that can absolutely wreck opposing offenses, as well as, air it out a little bit and open it up for scoring with that offense. But what we saw last year is not going to be much different this year. I think Brandon Staley's still their coach. We remember the decisions that he made last year that cost them a playoff spot. They didn't want to tie, so they just cost themselves a playoff spot for no reason. That's not what a smart coach does. And I'm not saying like, oh, Brandon Staley's going to ruin Justin Herbert or ruin this Chargers team, but we have to be realistic here. Is he the right guy for the job when he's making that boneheaded of decisions? I think in the NFL, you've got to make decisions that will benefit your team the most rather than self-gratification, I guess. Like, what was the gain when you tried to go win that game? I think it was silly that they did that. But again, I'm digressing because it's the Chargers and ESPN ticks me off with how they treat the Chiefs as second-class citizens just because we lost in the AFC Championship, which is kind of a high standard if I do say so myself. But going back into the Chiefs, I think the main things that we need to watch are. I think the main things that we need to watch are the wide receiver room, as I've been saying, and the pass rush. I think the guys in the wide receiver room will. With as many guys as we have in the wide receiver room, I think that'll be extremely beneficial for competition in camp. I think competition only makes teams better, as it's chemistry, yes, but in terms of that wide receiver room, there's only 5 spots for wide receiver on the roster. So, and there's like 8 guys competing for that wide receiver spot. That's going to be a race. It's going to be a horse race, guys. I don't really see, aside from like Juju and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I don't really see a standout guy for those other 3 wide receiver spots. But that's a good thing. And I'll tell you why it's a good thing. It's because, it promotes competition. And there's a lot of talent on this Chiefs a lot of potential talent too on this in this Chiefs wide receiving core. Obviously, you've got Sky Moore, you've got Justin Ross, who, by the way, had leg surgery, so he will not be back till August. And I know that burns the ears of Justin Ross fans, but I don't know if he gets a roster spot because of this. If he can come back and he can soar in those preseason games, then I think he's got more of a chance. But the fact that he's had surgery this late into the offseason kind of concerns me a little bit. And the fact that he's not getting training camp reps is kind of concerning. I want him to make the team. I want him to prove doubters wrong. I want him to prove why he shouldn't have gone undrafted. But that only happens if he can play. And this leg surgery may not have come at the most opportune of times. I mean, obviously, you got to care about health first and everything like that. But, and obviously, like, if he had surgery on it, more than likely it would have bothered him through training camp. So, I don't know. I think Justin Ross still has a shot, but it dwindled because of what happened with his leg. In terms of the other guys, that Watson guy from Tampa Bay looks pretty good, according to a bunch of Chiefs insiders. He's a standout at training or at OTAs, which doesn't mean a ton, but it's there, it's out there. And then we got, obviously, Josh Gordon, who's apparently really leaned out and gained some muscle and looks like his, 2016 form. So that'll be interesting to see how he comes back from everything that he's been through. Jody Fortson is up there. Darius Fountain is up there. So it is a Sky Moore. It is a loaded wide receiver room. Maybe not in terms of talent necessarily, but in terms of depth, which I think is more important. And with Patrick Mahomes, you're going to see these wide receivers do work and open their potential up, because that's just what Patrick Mahomes does. He's a guy that can release, and Mecole Hardman too, and I think he's a guaranteed roster spot as well. But again, time will only tell. I think that wide receiver room is the group to watch, as well as the pass rush. But if I'm taking a certain guy to excel in training camp and to make his name known, I think I'm going to go with Isaiah Pacheco, the running back that we drafted in the 7th round. And I'll tell you why. I think Isaiah Pacheco is the perfect fit for this Chiefs offense. He's a receiving back. He's a big-bodied guy, and he has the ability to play third down back if we need him to. I think I see a lot of Darrell Williams in him. And with Jerick McKinnon and Ronald Jones, I think the running back group in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think the running back group is stacked. I don't think we're going to lose a step, especially when we're a pass-heavy offense like we are. Or I should say RPO, really. He was the fastest running back in the draft. And I think what the Chiefs thrive on are speed plays. We're a very fast team, and not like Chip Kelly hurry up offense type fast, but fast and fluid. It's not chaotic. It's not, it's been a part of the pros for a while, whereas Chip Kelly's system was a college system and didn't work. But I think another group. Continuing on Isaiah Pacheco. He has the ability to be a great running back, and if we have to do running back by committee, and we got Derek Gore in there too, what I'm saying is we need to watch this training camp to see who shines, because whoever shines through this training camp is more than likely going to get a roster spot and get their chance to shine in a couple games. And who knows? Maybe they'll become the next star. And I think that's true with the offense, and I think that's at least partly true with the defense. I don't think it's as relevant because I think the defense just needs development rather than, figuring out who's fitting where, like the offense does. I think the defense just needs development. I think they've got the bodies and they've got the talent. They just need to develop. And with how young that secondary is, that kind of worries me. And I think those first couple games, they might get a little bit exploited. But hopefully in the preseason they can get all those jitters out. That being said, we play the Cardinals week 1. And, well, I guess DeAndre Hopkins actually got a PED violation, so he's not going to play that game. So that's really, really good for us. But just keep in mind that we're a division of really, really good quarterbacks. And they will exploit these young corners pretty easy if they let them. I think they've got more than enough talent to compete in the NFL, but they're a young group and they're an inexperienced group. I think the main group that we should be watching are them and the linebackers, but I think the linebackers we're going to watch for a much better reason. I think they're going to have a lot more to do with the pass rush, especially if we don't get Robert Quinn or another pass rusher by the time free agency's over. And with the downhill ability that Leo Chenal has, our 4th-round draft pick, that could translate into a pass rusher that can in a run stopper, that can absolutely demolish people. I think when it comes to how we drafted defensively this year, we drafted a lot of hard hitters and guys that can fly to the ball, which I think is super important because we did not have that last year. Ben Neiman was scared to tackle last year. Dan Sorensen did not look like Dan Sorensen of yesteryear. And Anthony Hitchens is just old. So it'll be interesting to see how this Bam Bam defense will translate to pass coverage, especially with how the pass rush looks right now. If Frank Clark can't get in gear, if George Karlaftis can't get developed, we might have to see that secondary do a lot of extra work, which could spell trouble. Emphasis on could, because frankly speaking, we haven't seen most of this secondary play. So, I don't know. I think it'll be definitely an interesting training camp, just when all is said and done. And overall, I think the Chiefs will be just fine this year. I've been saying that. I don't think they will be third in the AFC West. I think that's lowballing them. Because, again, when you have Patrick Mahomes, you always have a contender, at least in my opinion. And when it comes to things like the Orlando Brown holdout and everything like that, guys, we got Joe Thuney right below him, who is also a really good tackle. And it'll benefit us to have him, obviously, but he's going to be under that franchise tag. And a lot of players don't really like that, especially with players that want to get paid. I'll probably talk more on the Orlando Brown deal this week. I kind of need to do a little bit more research before I can speak more in depth about it. I've heard a lot of hearsay, and I just want to make sure everything's true and to the point. What I've heard thus far is he denied 6-year, $230 million, which would make him the highest paid tackle in the NFL. So that's a problem. But we'll see. I mean, it's still early. Who knows? We might be able to get a deal done next year. But this year is a franchise tag, and if he doesn't take that franchise tag, that means he's just not going to play for us, and that's okay. We still have a good offensive line that can form well to whatever is thrown at us. Let's look at viewer comments now. I asked you guys what your Kansas City Sports Mount Rushmore was, and let me tell you, I got some pretty good answers. So let me pull those up. Let's go to Facebook first. Facebook is got a few of them. My mom is kind of giving me a few other good choices here. Kathy Nelson, Ned Yost, Whitey Herzog, Bob Kendrick, and she says not sure I'd include Dawson on mine. And I kind of just responded with, those are all good options. I agree. But when it comes to Rushmore, you're picking 4, and you're generally basing it on notoriety and impact that they've had. I think Kathy Nelson, Ned Yost, Whitey Herzog, Bob Kendrick have all had their very key moments throughout Kansas City sports history. I think Kathy Nelson absolutely deserves to be on there. Number one, to have woman representation, and number two, just recognize her accomplishments. I mean, she is one of the best commissioners of this Kansas City Sports Commission that we have ever had. I mean, she got the World Cup here, and she's had such an impact on this community. So I fully agree that Kathy Nelson should have a spot on there, maybe over Len Dawson. I would tend to agree with that, but I kind of just threw 4 guys up there that have the most name recognition and notoriety in Kansas City, and that their names are plastered everywhere. My old rugby coach Brad Bowling kind of added a few here as well. Brett Saberhagen, Whitey Herzog. I think Whitey Herzog deserves to be there too. Obviously, Ewing Kauffman is Ewing Kauffman, but I mean, shoot, and George Brett too. This is what makes the Mount Rushmore so tough, is because there are so many people that have made a huge impact on Kansas City sports. Whitey Herzog was one of them. Whitey Herzog, if you don't know him, was the Royals manager for the '85 World Series and that era of Royals baseball, maybe the heyday of Royals baseball, because we were consistently good in the 80s up until those last couple of years when we started to go into the 90s era of Royals baseball, and the 90s era kind of sucked. So, but I don't know. He also says here, I think we need a bigger mountain. I agree with you, Coach Brad. I agree with you. This was such a tough list to make up. I mean, it truly was. And I only included Len Dawson on there because of his broadcasting career and just how long he has been around Kansas City. And in terms of community impact, I think he absolutely could do more. But in terms of impact on Kansas City sports at large, I think he's got a big professional impact, being a broadcaster and being the first starting quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs that brought us to our first 2 Super Bowls, one of which that we won. But there's arguments to be made. Obviously there is. Coach Brad goes in a little bit more. Newbies say Mahomes. I agree with that. I think Mahomes will earn his spot up there. But it will. It'll take time. It will. I think he's definitely earned his spot in Chiefs lore and legend. And with the charitable work that he does too, and like being a part owner of the Royals and everything like that, it's hard to leave him off of that mountain. It truly is. But I think he just needs to be here for a little bit longer, and then he'll be on it for sure. I mean, he's practically a shoo-in already. He also goes in by saying, I think we need a bigger mountain because you'd have to put on Frank White, Amos Otis, Derek Thomas, huge one there, Neil Smith, and then you got the best defensive backs in Jerron Cherry, Albert Lewis, Kevin Ross. He goes in and says we need at least one side of the Rockies. Yeah, we'll probably need a whole mountain range, really. I think with how everyone's responded. He also included Bo Jackson in there. I think if Bo Jackson's career was longer, he would have been a shoo-in. He is one of the greatest athletes ever. But his career was just cut way too short. That's why he's not in the Hall of Fame, and that's why he's kind of just this, oh man, he's arguably the biggest what-if story in all of sports. Because if he hadn't got injured, the sky's the limit. I mean, it truly is the limit. But I think he just pushed himself too hard. I mean, running back's at such a tough position, and during that era of the NFL, it was even tougher. So it's... Sorry. Gosh, ranting makes my mouth dry. It's a good thought for Bo Jackson because... but also he played for the Raiders. And I don't know. I see your point, but at the same time, played for the Raiders, played for the Royals for only a couple years, but those couple years were huge. So, in just so many iconic moments. I mean, in terms of sports iconism, if that's even a word, I think he's up there with the best. Just with the fanfare too. If you haven't watched the 30 for 30 on Bo Jackson, I suggest you go do that right now because it truly was such an interesting time when he was in his prime, and just such a huge rise and a huge fall, just such a climactic career that should have ended better. So I agree with you on that. Let's go to Instagram now. Got a couple comments on Instagram that I need to hit really quick. Who's that? Sorry about that, y'all. Give me 1 sec. Archive. Okay. Where is it? Oh, gotcha. Sorry. So my coach, Derek Pearson, who again is a Raiders fan and will be on the ScorchCast to talk some Raiders, talk some rugby. He's going to be a fun one. Tune in. I'll let you know the dates and everything like that. But he said Bo Jackson, George Brett, Alex Gordon, and Tony Gonzalez. This one's an interesting one. I agree with George Brett for sure. I think George Brett is the greatest Royal ever. So I think that counts for everything. And he's the only Royals Hall of Famer, too. Unless you count Buck O'Neil and Satchel Paige, which they're monarchs. But it's... By the way, congrats to Buck O'Neil for making the Hall of Fame, first and foremost. Way overdue. But it's still a great honor for such a great man. He's really done so much for Kansas City and for baseball. And it's an honor well deserved. So, congratulations, Buck. But he also said Bo Jackson, again, Alex Gordon and Tony Gonzalez are the two that I'll talk about here. Alex Gordon, I think, does deserve a spot at some point. He was our greatest outfielder ever, in my opinion. With the amount of Gold Gloves that that got awarded to him, and just the crazy web gems that we've seen from him, it's pretty easy to put him on the Royals Mount Rushmore. But again, I think we just need a bigger slope. And coming from a Nebraska native in Derek Pearson, I can see that. So I agree with you, Derek. I think he's definitely one that is just right on the cusp, if not there. Truly one of the greatest Royals of all time. And he's a guy that we developed and we kept on the team, so he got good over time. Gee, it sounds like we should be doing that right now with other players. But I digress. Going to Tony Gonzalez, I think Tony is a great man and a great player. I think there's a lot of, and here's where you're going to get after me, but I think there's a lot of nostalgia behind him and how good he was that affects a lot of people that lived while he played for the Chiefs. Travis Kelce has broken every single one of Tony Gonzalez's records now. I'm just going to put that out there. I think that Tony Gonzalez is a Kansas City icon. I think he is always welcome here with how great he truly was, because he was a great tight end. He wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame if he wasn't. But, and this is so hard to say because I grew up idolizing Tony Gonzalez. I thought he was the greatest player ever. I cried when he got traded. And it's just so hard to say because, but I think Travis Kelce beats him in terms of notoriety, in terms of community impact. I mean, Travis Kelce has just as many charitable works as Patrick Mahomes does. I mean, he has made Kansas City his home and stands by it. And I hate to say it, but and it wasn't his choice, but Tony Gonzalez got traded and he went to Atlanta. And yeah, he'll always, again, be welcome in Kansas City. I don't think he was here long enough to have the impact that, a guy like Travis Kelce adds, who's been here since 2013. He's been here a decade and has nothing but love for Kansas City. And I don't doubt that Tony Gonzalez does or doesn't or does. You get what I mean. It's been a long week. Sorry, guys. But it's truly, again, it's debatable. My buddy Aaron has a pretty similar list to what I have. Sans one. Kaufman, Lamar Hunt, Patrick Mahomes, and Buck O'Neil. I am very surprised at the lack of Lamar Hunt people that are on this list. I mean, it truly makes me, like, you guys know that he brought the Chiefs here. He was a huge part in the AFL-NFL merger. He created the Super Bowl, or at least was part of creating the Super Bowl. And his family still runs the Chiefs. Like, he among everybody else is probably the most impactful guy on Kansas City sports. I mean, with the amount of charitable works that he had, with the love that he had for Kansas City, with building Arrowhead and having the Lamar Hunt Trophy be the trophy of the AFC Championship. He was such an important owner and leader that I am befuddled that you guys don't have him on a list. Like, come on. Now looking at it, a few of you had him, but not enough. Maybe because I mentioned him. I don't know. Or maybe because he's just a given. But he's got Buck O'Neil and Patrick Mahomes on there. Buck O'Neil I agree with, but again, I've given my piece on Patrick Mahomes already. I think he's got time to do more, and that's why we're leaving him off for now. My grandma said Salvador Perez. He's been with the Royals through thick and thin. I can't fault him for that. And he's such an integral part, or I hate to say it, but was such an integral part of Royals baseball. I think he's done after this year, though. After all the work he has done for Kansas City, he should be enshrined in the Royals Hall of Fame at the very least. But he's had a decline as of recent, which, I mean, I understand because he's just trying to do too much because this Royals team is not what 2014 and 2015 was, and he's trying to get it back there. But it's just not enough. And with an aging guy like Salvador, it's too little. I mean, he doesn't have enough in the tank. That is not to say that he absolutely does not belong on this list, because he absolutely does. But he's had a decline, and it's sad to see. And I hope he does the right thing and kind of retires after this year, because he's just had so many injuries, and just I feel bad for the guy. I mean, yeah, last year he was the home run king, but we're seeing a decline this year, and it sucks. Sorry to end it on that really sad note. Actually, you know what? We won't end it on that sad note. I have a couple more to go through. This is a long episode. I hope you guys are still sticking with me. But we had a conversation on Saturday, me and a couple other rugby aficionados, after I shared the news of Kansas City bidding to host the World Cup in 2031. Alexis Alfaro basically said, or did say, sorry, it's getting towards the end of the episode, so I'm just trying to push through. Alexis Alfaro said, World Cup is generally played in October, November. Do you think weather will be an issue? I think, again, if we can play Chiefs football in October and November, we should be just fine for the World Cup. That being said, cities like Dallas, NOLA, Miami have a better chance because of weather. I'm sorry we live in the Midwest. But yeah, that does give us less of a shot. I don't know. But I have a list here of what my coach, Derek Pearson, said. And he said the first World Cup was held in May and June. So we could see a change in the next decade, perhaps. Maybe. Maybe not. We'll just have to see. That'd be cool, though. I would definitely give Kansas City more of a chance. But he's definitely got some facts here. He's saying host cities per last 3 World Cups. In 2011, there were 13 cities, which, if you didn't know, in 2011 it was held in New Zealand, which I didn't know they had 13 cities. I knew they had 3. But, New Zealand's just a rugby hub. So you could play the World Cup, I'm sure, anywhere over there. They've got a rugby field per every 5 square kilometers over there. So it would be very hard not to find a field. In 2015, they also had 13, and in 2019, they had 12. Um, and he goes on to list the cities that probably would make it, and Kansas City would probably make that list of 12 cities. He's got Seattle, San Diego, Las Vegas, Denver, Houston, Dallas, Kansas City, Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, and New Orleans, which I think that's a pretty good list, and I think that's a list that we can get behind. I don't think St. Louis has the rugby culture that Kansas City does. I think we've got a lot better high school talent over here, and honestly, we've got a lot more clubs over here as well. Yeah, St. Louis has quite a few in the general metro area, but not really anywhere else. We've got, Northland, KCK, KU, MU, UMKC, UCM. Like, we've got such a large amount of teams over in Kansas City that it's hard not to justify us getting a World Cup spot. And there's plenty of talent that has come from or has gone on to play for the Eagles that has come from Kansas City in the Midwest. I mean, Matt Harmon, Chandler Owens, Michael Baska, Tim Klumpers, and there's plenty more. And I think this area is very underrated, but in the next couple of years, in the next decade, this city's going to see a ton of growth. Like I said with the Soccer World Cup, we've got the opportunity in the next 10 years to become a big city in all facets. And it's time we show the world Kansas City culture. And I hope to be part of that. Speaking of Kansas City culture, there's plenty of local businesses, local artists, local music, and everything like that that will benefit greatly from these events coming up. But can benefit now through your work and through your patronage. Go out and support your local businesses, folks. Obviously, you got little old me over here. I know I don't sell anything, at least yet. We might be in the process of possibly getting some t-shirts going or something for the Patreon. I'm going to throw out some ideas this week, and I'll see what you guys think. But in terms of, artists and musicians and local businesses and everything like that, those are the best people that you can support because they're people from your hometown doing things that will be done right. They'll be done with a passion that is not seen in chains or with national chains and everything like that. And I think local businesses and small businesses deserve the most love when it comes to these big events coming here. Just support them, and in turn they'll support you. So I'll leave you guys with that message of just support local business, buy local, and just make sure to support your friends too, because I know a lot of my friends. And I'm not even just saying this because I've always been about DIY local stuff, but I know a bunch of my friends have businesses and certain things that they take pride in and passion in. Go support them. It's a noble thing to be doing this, and I don't do this for the money. I don't do this because just for giggles. I do it because I'm passionate about sports. I'm passionate about making sports digestible to the Kansas City community and talking about these intermechanitions of the sporting industry and of Kansas City sports with you guys and making a community out of it. It's super important to me because I know now more than ever we need a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And that only comes when we support each other and love each other. So, again, buy local, support local artists, musicians, writers, everything like that, and we will go far. So, I'll leave you all with that sentimental note. next week, same time, I will be making another Burn KC ScorchCast. But until then, I will be writing daily articles, and I hope you all have a great night, and I will be talking to you in the future. This is the Burn KC signing off.